Hey everybody, it's Jeff Antoniuk. Welcome to Digging Deeper Jazz. Well, this week I want to implore you to stop practicing scales. If you're a drummer, please stop practicing rudiments. All those things that we do that are about music, but they're not actually music, a bit of a waste of time. So what I want to do today is give you a framework of how to keep practicing that stuff. And yes, those things are important, but how to use them, how to practice them in a way that we can actually use on the gig, that we can actually use when somebody counts off a song. There is no reason for any of us to play an octave up and down scale ever again in our lives. And that's what I want to talk about. Once a poet learns the alphabet, they're not thinking about the alphabet. They're too busy using the alphabet as a tool to write poetry. It's the same with a palette of paint that an oil painter has. That palette of paint isn't the art. We don't worry that much about that thing. Once we figure out how to do it, we now apply it and do something with it. So that's what I want to do. I want to break down these boundaries. And so many of us get stuck with practicing these things over and over again. They're not actually useful. They're not actually getting us ahead. So I'm going to give you something very, very tangible, a very good PDF. I'm going to show you how to think about this stuff and how to change your practicing and make it way more powerful than it's ever been. Before we do that, a big announcement. Today, literally today, is the 1-year anniversary of jazzwire.net. If you don't know about Jazzwire, it is a subscription website built for adult amateurs and semi-pros like so many of you out there. I wanted to create a place where people could have the experience I had in college, which is basically this amazing community around me helping me learn stuff. My college education wasn't about fantastic knowledge left and right. It was about a community that allowed me to use the knowledge I had. People around me to talk with and play with. That's what we do at Jazzwire. Why am I telling you about this? We are having a 10-day sale. So I'm going to read it right here so I don't get it wrong. So to celebrate, we're going to have our biggest discount that we've ever offered. I know I offered Digging Deeper viewers some discounts. For the next 10 days, November 1st through November 10th, 2019, you can save $100 on your first 6 months at Jazzwire. So again, I'm going to read this. So you sign up and pay your $75 registration fee. That gets a personalized practice plan and a playing evaluation from me personally. You pay that, you submit your music within a week, because of course I need to hear you play, and then 2 months free. 2 months free of Jazzwire. So I know many of you have been sitting on the fence and it's not the right time and I'm not sure if I can afford $50 a month or whatever it is. This is the time to jump in. So go to jazzwire.net, get signed up, 10 days. And please tell some folks that you think may be interested in this. All right, let's get into this scale thing. And now I was talking about drummers with rudiments. And of course, each instrument will have something similar, about that. So this idea of playing scale. That's great, but are you ever going to play that on a gig? Probably not. So here is what you need to do. We need to make it into a melody. So what I'm going to say is do not go up to the octave or 2 octaves. Turn around early or turn around late. So I want you to not go to the octave ever again. I want you to go to, let's say, the 7th. Somehow already that sounds more interesting, more like a melody. So I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Or go past the octave, go to the 9th, 1 note above the octave. That right there makes this sound more like a melody, sort of a little bit more functional. So that's one of the first things. So look at the first item on the sheet here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This example goes up to the 9th. It goes up to that D in the key of C major. It's a C major scale. But what we also see on the way back down is don't go all the way back down to the root. It's nice that we're turning around on a different note, but let's end on a different chord tone. The 3rd, the 5th, those are nice notes to end on. I think you'll find that those work very well. So here's what I did. The recipe is this simple. Don't go to the octave, turn around before the octave or after the octave. Don't come all the way back down to the octave where you started. And if we can add a little rhythm, if we can add some rests, and in jazz, if we can add some syncopation, that's what we're after. Listen to example 1. That sort of kind of sounds like music. We can imagine playing that in a solo. We can imagine one of our heroes playing that. And yes, some of our heroes have played that exact thing. So that is the deal. We can see how that is very much a major scale, but we can also see those 3 items that I changed. Look at item number 2 here. In item number 2, I started on the root. I went up, but I turned around before the root. I turned around on the 7th. I added just a little syncopation, a little rest in there. And again, I didn't end on the root. I ended on the 3rd of the scale. That is a fantastic major 7 lick to play. All right, item number 3. So it's like item number 2. I start on the root. I play up to the 7th when I turn around. It's got a little different syncopated rhythm. And I come down to the 5th, a chord tone. So I guess the implication here is, do we know our major scales? Yes. Here's the thing. If you don't know your major scales, definitely practice your major scales. But not for 45 years. Practice your major scales for like 3 days and then do this. There's no reason. There's no reason. So turning around at the 7th, I came back down, added a nice little syncopation, and ended on a chord tone. So that's the other implied bit of knowledge. Do you know your chord tones? 1, 3, 5, 7. That's what I mean by chord tones. This stuff is sounding like real music, isn't it? Let's look at the next example on the sheet. The blues scale. So of course, that could be a riff blues. We could write a song around that. I went up the blues scale, but went past the octave, up to the next note, came down, ended on the 7th. So in these various examples on the sheet, turning around in different places, ending on different chord tones. Now, of course, with the PDF, those of you that know, this PDF is always free to you. Write us within a week of the video, and we're very, very happy to get you the PDF. And we have another system coming up for all the past PDFs, 120 some past PDFs. So let's review this. The idea of these scales that you know, or rudiments. And, you know, I'll talk about rudiments just for a second coming up. But this idea of not just playing these things up and down with no thought to them. When we do these 3 little changes to them, we get real music happening. Now, take drummers, take something like a 5-stroke roll. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. It's 3 hand motions, da-da, da-da, dot, da-ga, da-ga, dot. And yeah, we can sit in front of the TV with a practice pad and play endless 5-stroke rolls. Well, how about make music with them? Dugga dugga dot, dugga dugga dot, dugga dugga dot, dugga dugga boom, dugga dugga boom, dugga dugga ding, dugga dugga ding. You can move a 5-stroke roll around the drum set, including the bass drum, including the hi-hat, including the cymbals, and you can make amazing motivic solos with a 5-stroke roll. This boring thing that people often play in a boring way. Don't do that. Make music with this stuff. So us adult amateurs, us semi-pros, some of us have a lot of time on our hands, and this is going to be great. You can develop this. Some of us have very little time on our hands between work and family and everything else. This is how to supercharge your practice. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it right there. You know everything you need to know. And now, of course, in Jazzwire is where we expand this and have conversations about this. So 10-day sale, November 1st to 10th. I want to see you coming into Jazzwire. You've had all kinds of excuses before. Your excuses are running a little thin. So I hope this allows you to come in and work with us and hundreds of adult musicians like you from all across the world. And the last thing is we're doing workshops now in different locations. So coming up this December in Toronto and Waterloo, Ontario, coming up January in Pomona, California, and San Diego, California. If you go to jazzwire.net/events, we can work together in person. So I hope I will be seeing you on Jazzwire or at one of these events coming up. And I would love to know your experience with how this works for you and playing this stuff and applying it to some music. Have a great time with it. Leave some comments, and we will see you next time.